This is the Indirect Podcast. As always, Steve Schlanger here in St. Louis. Tim Ream typically would be joining us from London, but Tim on assignment with his day job with Fulham and, of course, the U.S. national team. So he's busy with football at the moment, but the topic here is always football because it never ends. And earlier this week, the most prestigious individual prize in world football was awarded, the Ballon d'Or, with the very distinguished ceremony always taking place in Paris. It was, to no one's real surprise, the record seventh victory for Lionel Messi, but it wasn't without some controversy. So, to dig into that a little bit more, we are joined by Nicolas Mannisier from Paris, who is the head of the Ballon d'Or brand for L'Equipe and France Football, which helps give out the award and set the criteria. So, Nicholas, as we jump in here, just describe a little bit more about your role with the Ballon d'Or and your overview of what you do with your job.
Well, I mean, hello, good evening, everyone. I am the head of the brand, which means that I supervise the overall organization of the Ballon d'Or, and not only the ceremony, but all the build-up. There is, of course, the trophies, but there's a lot to do around it. The distribution of the world. It was aired in 167 countries. There's all the social media. It reached. We had a study today. 2.8 billion people in the world. The partners, I mean, there are partners obviously to this ceremony and to the Ballon d'Or, and we supervise it as well. The media that come on site, there was 150 journalists and another 40 TV crews that were there. So the overall organization is quite big. I had a team of around 100 people over the 3 months that are previous to the ceremony, and of course, I had the teams that are in charge of selecting the nominees and of organizing the polls.
Now, you yourself don't have a vote.
No, I don't.
Did you agree with Messi as the winner once again? How did you feel about that?
Well, I don't have to agree or not agree, actually. It's a poll. We have a jury of 180 journalists. Each one come from one country. They represent their country. They're expert in football and soccer. We sent to them the list of nominees. This year it was on October the 8th. They come back to us with their top five. Number one gets 6 points, number two, four, then three, two, and one. And then we do the math. And this is it. So, I mean, it's been the same since 1956. Obviously, the number of journalists and so the jury members have grown over the time. But I have no comment to do. I mean, it's equal, it's universal. One might say that it is surprising that the member of the jury that comes from Germany or England or Spain has the same weight as the member of the jury coming from Rwanda or the Philippines. But this is the way we do it, and we've always done it. And then you get the results. So this is the voice of the world, actually.
How is the criteria established that you tell your voters to base their judgments upon?
Well, first of all, the voters, in average, they have been voting for the Ballon d'Or for at least 10 years. So they are very well aware of this criteria. There are three major ones. The first one is the achievements during the season, during the year actually, because the Ballon d'Or is awarded on a calendar year. So the achievements means, I mean, what trophies were won, what records were broken, if you were the top scorer of your league, the top assister of your league. Second one is the class of the player. I mean, on and off the pitch. We're talking about talent. We're talking about fair play. We're talking about the overall qualities of the player. And the third one is the career. And this is where it is very seldom when a very young player wins the Ballon d'Or. You have to have proved over a long period of time that you are among the top stars of football. It's not a shining star that wins this trophy. It's the ultimate football trophy. It's very important. That is It is based on a long period of time.
And with regard to that, why do they put so much of an emphasis on that long period of time, that overall career? Because it's an annual award, why not
It
just
is.
base it on what they did over that particular 1 year period?
Well, I mean, it is part of the criteria. Then there's no waiting. There is no. I mean, we the one thing that we've asked to our jury members was to say that we're talking about the year 2021, right? And that they should not have in mind that there's something to make up for the previous year. And that was very important for us. We were not granting a trophy for 2020 and 2021 because if you're not aware of this, but we didn't grant any trophy in
Right.
2020. So of course we're talking about a year, but if then you believe that two or three players are pretty much even, of course that you will base your judgment as a member of the jury on something that is wider. And this is where this third criteria can help.
So that's the reason a person like Messi would always have an advantage over a younger player because he has this body of work that his past years are never going to change. They're always going to be exceptional. So it's going to be that much more difficult for a young player to unseat him. Is that right?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, a young player can do an overwhelming season and win a lot of trophies, and this will weigh much more than his history. The truth is that we believe that this trophy is absolutely unequaled in the world, and this is, I mean, the one part of this is based on the fact that uh, it's very, very tough to achieve. It's very tough. You have to clear a lot of bars.
Right. I guess the one way I would think about it is the fact that let's say you're comparing someone like Messi and Pedri. Pedri, one of the great young players in the world right now, playing for Barcelona, Messi's former team. Pedri is going to, under these circumstances and this criteria, have to achieve something exponentially more than Messi because he doesn't have Messi's pedigree in his career to fall back on if the voting comes down to that career element, right?
Well, no. I mean, if Pedri, well, in a way, I mean, if Spain had won the Euros and the Olympics with Pedri in both teams, right? It's pretty possible that he could have won the Ballon d'Or.
Right. But he has to do that, right? I mean, Messi doesn't have to clear that bar
Well,
because he already has the history, right?
Messi won the Copa America
Right.
with Argentina for the first time in 28 years, which makes it a very, very tough trophy to win. Um, I think it was considered in Europe that winning the Copa America was not very much of a big deal. But still, I mean, it is certainly very tough to win if you see that Argentina had not done it since 1993. And that was quite an outcome. And although it was not that echoed in Europe because it was at the same time as the Euros, it was echoed a lot in the rest of the world. And from a European point of view, of course, I mean this could be surprising, but it had a lot of value. It had a lot of value, certainly, in the votes of the members of the jury.
Players can't do much about their teammates, and especially their national team
True.
teammates.
This is true.
Is there any reservation about using that as a criteria? Because, for instance, Robert Lewandowski, who a lot of people thought should have won it this year, he plays for Poland. They don't make it to a lot of big international competitions. They're not as strong as a Spain or an Argentina. How about that as a criteria and something that gets held against him?
Well, I mean, this has always been one of the criteria. I mean, to win titles, and it's true that it could be seen as unfair, but it has to be as equal as possible. And the truth is that, I mean, on the club side, the best players play in the best clubs, and they have a chance to win trophies with their clubs. Uh, the Euros or the World Cups, I mean, they're not every year. But this year, there was a Copa America and a Euros, and obviously it has a weight. It is the kind of events that are seen worldwide, but in the same way as the Champions League, or as the Premier League, or as the Liga, or as the Bundesliga. So, in the end of the day, well, I mean, one could never argue that. Well, let's get rid of the national teams because not everyone plays in teams that are good enough. I mean, that that is part of the thing. And you know, I mean, Maradona won the World Cup in 1986 with a side that was not particularly bright, and still they won the World Cup. He did win the World Cup alone.
This
That's a
is
fact.
that's
Well, I
true,
mean, I'm being a bit
right?
straightforward saying that, but you know, he was so instrumental. So it can happen, you know.
But this is also a different era than the mid '80s, isn't it? I mean, can Lewandowski single-handedly lead Poland past some of the national teams that we see out there today?
Well,
And for
I
instance,
go on.
and for instance, a player like Erling Haaland. Haaland is one of the best young players in the world, figures to be one of the greatest players in the world going forward over the next several years, no matter what club he eventually goes to if he leaves Dortmund. But coming from Norway, it's likely he's not going to have a big presence on the international football stage. How much will that be held against him?
Well, that's. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be held against him, but truly, he will not be in the World Cup next year. And this is pretty tough for him, because next year's Ballon d'Or will be awarded just after the World Cup. So it will have a major effect on the votes. That's certain. And but it could well be that in the end of the day, such as it was the case in 2018, it's not a player that was in the winning team that is awarded the Ballon d'Or. Modric won the Ballon d'Or in 2018, although well, he didn't win the World Cup. He was in the final, right? But more than that, he won three Champions Leagues in a row with Real Madrid. He was absolutely dominant, and this is what made him win this Ballon d'Or on that year. So if Erling Haaland does an extraordinary season, and that there is no prominent player in the winning team of the World Cup, I think there is a way for him to be very high in the ranking.
Now, you talk about the fact that it is based on a calendar year
Yes.
from January through December, but the award ceremony is always right at the beginning of December. When do the votes have to be in?
Well, the votes they begin in October until mid-November.
So that excludes really the months of November and December.
It
So it
does.
takes 2 months out of the calendar year that they're supposed to be voting on. Why not push the ceremony back to something like January or February? Because you're lopping off 2 months of the year.
Well, we could, but we think that it's a bit late. And there's one thing that you have to bear in mind. It's that the voting process lasts a little time. We need to give to the jury members some time to vote. Um, in a way, because they are in various parts of the world, and well, we believe that this should not be like you get the nominees, and tomorrow you will have to vote. So we need to give some time for that. And I mean, if we decided to take into account the full calendar year, we would have to deliver the trophy in, say, mid-February. And then you enter into something, but that's a good question. You enter into something that is quite a nightmare for us. Find a date to organize this gala this evening. And really, there's hardly no date available with all the football matches happening all the time. There is one date in this first week of December, last week of November, this Monday, because there's no Champions League on the day after. There are some national cups in some countries, but it's not the case for the major clubs in Spain, England, Germany, Italy, or France. There is no international break, but there is one before. And then when you enter into December, there are so many matches that you can't find any other date. And when you get to January and February, there are a lot of cups matches,
Right.
especially in Spain and Germany, all along January. And then you get back to Champions League almost every Tuesday and Wednesdays. So you can't expect players to be anywhere uh, going for a ceremony on Monday evenings in February. So then, I mean, you don't do it.
What will you do about the voting for next year, given the fact that the World Cup is going to be held after the votes would typically be in?
Well, of course, we'll move definitely to January, and we'll try to
Hmm.
find a date. The calendar will be totally mixed up, and probably that the Champions League calendar will change. That the cups dates will change as well in the various countries. One very good thing is that we will issue the nominees right after the World Cup, a few days after.
Hmm.
And the voting process will be shorter than on the other years because we will have to grant this trophy as early as possible, and we don't want again to wait until February because we think that saying what was the best player of 2022 in February 2023. Well, it sounds too late already. We're so much in the final strip of the season that it's already, I mean, it's already behind us, and we don't want that.
What is the most difficult thing about organizing the gala, as you talked about? I know schedules and getting all the players there is difficult. What's a good story that you have from past Ballon d'Ors of trying to get some of these marquee names into the building on a given night?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stories that I have to keep confidential, but um, there are players that don't want to come because they believe their ranking is not high enough.
Hmm.
There are players that don't want to come because one of their teammates have won, and they're not happy with that. And on the other hand, there are players that know they've not won and that come anyway, and this is very classy, and this is the kind of things that you know we tend to say that the world of football is made of divas, of stars, but of course, I mean, we're talking about people that are known all over the world and that are huge stars. But what I can say is that some of them are extremely simple and human people. So just one story that really, I mean, I felt it was exactly um, the kind of guy I would have expected, um, and I hope he won't be bothered that I will say that Simon Kier accepted to come, and well, he actually sent me his email address, and I dealt directly with him to well, to find what airport he should arrive in Paris to. There was no intermediate, and I thought that was in line with the image of this hero that saved his teammate and that didn't want to be in the light. Is extremely humble, and it was great to have him with us. It's not only
Yeah.
about the ones that come on stage; it's also about you know uh, the ones that make what we love about football. And I was delighted to see that this person was in line with what we see on the pitch.
The two most prominent names in recent years have been Messi and Ronaldo. Any interesting stories from their interactions at the ceremonies over the years? Because it's rare that they're actually in the same place at the same time, and there's no football match being played between them. Anything you can share with regard to that?
Well, I've not been in the situation to have them both together in the same ceremony. I have been, organizing the Ballon d'Or for too few years to see that. So I have no story to tell you about it, I'm afraid, unfortunately.
Is it challenging just to get them there in some cases?
Well, I mean, it's always challenging because their agenda is huge because
Hmm.
their constraints and their challenges are I mean, I mean, we're normal people and we can't imagine what it's like to be Messi or Ronaldo, really. And
Right.
this is where um, I am extremely admirative I mean, the way they cope with the pressure. They have been there for so long. I mean, their longevity is what makes them extremely different from other players.
Hmm.
And so, you know, and it is difficult to have them, But for us, it is so important that these players come on site because our value is based on the players that have won the trophy. And well, the two of them have won it 12 times when you addition their when you add their victories. And so, I mean, I don't care if it's tough or not tough to have them on board. I mean, we want to have them, and we do
Right.
whatever it takes to have them there.
Have you ever thought about in the future making perhaps any changes to the voting, the criteria, anything about the votes? And if you did, what would be the one thing you'd like to see changed?
Well, I mean, it's very tough to say. I mean, we're just a few days after this year's ceremony, and I mean, it's been the same voting system and the same criteria and the same um, points awarded. So for 60 years now, 65 years now. It's just the fact that I mean there's many more countries in Europe now that there was in
Hmm.
1956 that we've added well the full world into 2002 from 1995 any from any part of the world could win the but they had to play in Europe so the juries were still in Europe and then from 2002 onwards any player playing in any club and any national team in the world could be elected Ballon d'Or. So this is when we started to have jury members from all these countries. Um, I mean, one of the major values of this prize is to be, I mean, continuously there for
Hmm.
65 years. And changing the rules, it might seem pretty conservative, but it is a risk, you know? We're not going to change the rules because there is a controversy, a
Right.
potential controversy on a result. Because otherwise, I mean, then everyone is going to reread the past results saying, well, with the new rules, this player wouldn't have won and this one would have won. And it makes no sense.
Well, yeah, I'm saying too, though, it's not just about changing because of a controversy, maybe just changing as a part of the natural evolutionary process. VAR didn't exist 10 years ago, but now it's part of the game. So maybe just changing with the times, changing to make things better. Is the award open to something like that?
Well, it is. I mean, we're trying to be as humble as possible. We're
Hmm.
at the service of football. I mean, the Ballon d'Or is awarded by a media. We're not here to, to make some money or I mean, to make profit. We're owned by a family that has been editing L'Equipe in France Football since 1946 and 1956 respectively. So and we had I mean our audience are sports fans and in particular football fans. So we're at the service of football and we love it. So it could be that we adapt ourselves based on our passion of this game and based on what we think could be better for this game. The Ballon d'Or is the ultimate individual award, and there is very, 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 very few players that won the Ballon d'Or, the World Cup, and the Champions League, and we see it as a somehow as a triple crown. And you have
Hmm.
like Beckenbauer, who did that. You have um, Zidane, who did that. I mean, I counted once, and I think there's like 6 or 7 players. Ronaldinho did it, but it's very, very few players. So it's part of the history of football. Of course, it can change. I'm not saying that we're being conservative and we'll never change anything, but it has to be done in a way that respect, the
Hmm.
heritage of the trophy, the continuity of the trophy, and really, I mean, we have to base any change on what's good for the fans, what's good for the football, and just right now, I don't really see what changes we could do. We will not decide that. Well, eventually there are some countries. I don't think we will. That there are some countries that are not eligible to vote, for example, or that some
Hmm.
countries should have a weight that is bigger than some other.
Hmm.
I mean, on what basis should we be doing this? So, um, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to change, but for what?
Here's a thought. Let me know what you think of this. Because these days, analytics and science are so much a part of the game and the analysis, and you have metrics and data for just about everything that happens every second on a football pitch. How about if you took all of that data and said, you know what, this is what we're going to do? We're going to use all of that and, according to the numbers, see what player had the best season. Factor in goals, passing efficiency, work rate, everything, and come up maybe with an algorithm according to the scientific data that says this player, according to all of this across the landscape and according to this algorithm, let's say, they had the best season. We're going to give it to them. How about something like that?
Well, okay. I mean, I'll give you an example. In 2006, Zidane um, could have been elected on that basis, right? France didn't win the World Cup, but it was absolutely incredible. It did some matches because if you were going to be doing this, you would wait some matches more than other matches, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't you?
Sure. Yep.
Um, but Zidane at some point did something that was just unforgivable in the final, right?
Yeah.
And
The headbutt.
this is not a data thing, right?
Right.
And this is part of the judgment. It's human. So at some point, I mean, you could say that this player did fantastically well, and then off the pitch, his behavior does not fit with what the jury members believe a Ballon d'Or should be. So we're talking about a trophy that cannot be based on data only.
The Zidane incident, don't you think that's more of an isolated case, though? I mean, most players aren't going to get into a situation that's like that or as egregious as that. And as far as other off the pitch things, is when you think about the voters, how much do they really know or see about what the players are doing off the
I mean,
pitch?
this is their job. I mean, their job is to be a soccer journalist. So
Yeah.
normally, I mean, this is what they do 100% of their time. So they should be aware of what is going on and about the career of of the major players. They should be writing articles. They should be on some occasions, I mean, on site. And I'm not saying that off the pitch is that prominent, but it has something to do with the overall vision of the players. Another point that can't be measured is, I mean, being a captain, being a leader um, on the pitch. I mean, being able to cheer your teammates and make them like win a match that was absolutely lost. I mean, this is the kind of things that you can't measure, but that happen. What happens in the lockers? What happens? I mean, some players. I was mentioning Maradona earlier. He was an incredible captain for Argentina, and of course he did fantastically well on the pitch. But in the final in 1986, didn't score a goal. He scored quite a few in the previous matches, but he didn't score in the final. But still, I mean, his teammates were just behind him so much that he made them win. So, uh, I mean, my view is pretty romantic, possibly, but this is where passion lies. You know, it's
Yep.
not only about figures. Otherwise, I mean, if it's only about figures, let's say that the Ballon d'Or is going to be given to a striker every year, and this is it. I mean, the defender will never win the Ballon d'Or if you base things on data.
Well, that's why I was saying, I mean, there's more data available. It's not just goals. It's about
Still,
passing and
still,
movement and
Steve.
other things you can track as well, right?
Yeah, true. But then, I mean, you can track a lot of things, but then you will put weightings, okay? And saving a goal, if Bonucci saves a goal, it will be weighted less than scoring in the final of the Euros. Oh, the good thing is that it did two. It did the two of them. But you will have to define what are the factors that you weight more than the others. So it's just another headache that you're having, in
Right.
my view. In my view.
All right. Before we close this out, is there any one particular incident or a story you have of your time with the Ballon d'Or that you like the most, that strikes you in a certain way, or that just stands out for one reason or another?
Let me think. Um, well, I mean, this year I think Messi didn't expect Luis Suarez to be on stage to grant him to carry his Ballon d'Or. It was a big surprise for him, and I think it was close to you know to showing an emotion that is never shown. Um, if you saw the way, I mean, they actually embraced, and that was for me a major surprise. Messi's won so many trophies, and it was his seventh Ballon d'Or. But at this right moment, when Suarez was I understand when one of his closest friends arrived on the stage. Well, it was as if it was really his first time. I mean, I was just next to the stage and I saw it as a very emotional moment. Then what you have to know is that the players, they're trying to be as as professional as possible, and they are surrounded with a lot of people. So there's not that many things that we get to know about their emotions, and we don't want to interfere with them. I mean, they're here; it's their night. We want them to be, I mean, enjoying it as much as possible. It's not that easy for them. Have training and after, and there was the day before, so they're in the middle of a season, and their life is like they go 150 miles per hour. Really, I mean, their lives are so full. But yeah, I mean, that was like a few days ago, and likewise, I mean, Alexia Putellas, when she was on stage and when she dedicated her trophy to her dad, well, that was quite something.
Hmm. Indeed, it was. How much interaction do you have with the players? Do you have any conversations with Messi, Ronaldo, anybody like that backstage at all during the ceremony?
We're trying to preserve them as much as possible, really. I mean, it has to be comfortable for them. I mean, comfortable. I mean, they fly to Paris, they come to the red carpet, they get to their seat, they are in the ceremony, and then on most cases they fly back. So we want them to be as quiet as possible, to make it again as comfortable as possible. So no, we don't get really to speak with them, really. Um, we want them to enjoy that moment as much as they can. So if they're in a position to at some point have a drink with a national team teammate that is there as well for his club, if they're happy to take a picture with other players, well, I mean, this is what counts for us. We're not here to ask them anything. I mean, they're here and we're happy with that.
You mentioned that some players don't want to come if they know they're not going to win. How much do the players know about the voting ahead of time?
Well, I mean, we've had the habit to actually tell the winner that has won.
So they know the winner knows ahead of time.
Yes, the winner knows, for various reasons, but more than anything, I mean, he has to know because the winner has a program that is slightly different to the other players that are there. He has to, I mean, to go to a press conference, um, with media from all over the world. I mean, there's quite a few things that he's expected to do that we ask them to do, but as little as possible. So we need to tell them, right? And it might be that we change this. It's part of the things that I believe should be changed. It would be better that no one knows what the result is, but at some point,
Right.
it's made everyone's life simpler, I would say. So yeah, some players eventually understand that they've probably not won. If
When
you
do
don't
you
tell them,
notify the winner? When do you tell them that they've won?
this year it was like a few days before the ceremony, a few days.
So other players will have known then if they haven't gotten a phone call. that they will not have won, and then it's up to them whether or not they still want to come. Is that the way it works?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, must make it tricky, I would think, for some players when they don't find out, and then
Oh
they
well.
just have to wait and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
This is admirable that some come, although they they've somehow understood that they might not get on stage. So
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned that that's one thing that may change. Anything else that you can think of that and it could be an adjustment?
well, I mean that's one major thing. Then no, we have to think about it. I mean, there's one thing. I mean, that is the ceremony, but really more importantly, I mean, the prize is to remain as stable as possible. The ceremony is a spectacle. We do it, and we've really increased the impact of it over the last 4 or 5 years. Trying to organize it in iconic places, trying to, have the players come and spend a good moment because we think that it's important for the winners to actually celebrate it in a great way. And this is where, I mean, with this kind of event, that justifies a huge reach in the world. And when you're, I mean, a football player that invests 100% of your time and energy and dreams in being the best, it's really important that there's one day in the year where you are the true star of the world, and it's what's happened for
Hmm.
for Messi on Monday. So this is why we try to organize something that is as beautiful as possible. Well, I mean, we can have more ideas and be more creative and try to have as many players as possible. But really, I mean, this is just a spectacle that is dedicated to the players. Um, so I mean, we'll think about it. But then when it comes to the trophies in itself, on themselves, well, they have to again to be as continuous as possible. We will not start, invent new things just to be more modern or just to be more
Yeah.
attractive. Um,
Is with all of the different awards that are out there these days, what is it about the Ballon d'Or that still makes it the most coveted award in the sport? Is it just the history behind it, or is there something else that makes it the one that everyone wants?
well, I think this is it. I mean, this is the fact that it's been there unchanged for so long. And this is where, I mean, I was mentioning the fact that we might be, I mean, my speech might sound a bit conservative, but we are talking about an institution, a compass, I would say, for the football world. I mean, almost all players' fathers were not born in 1956. Think about it. And I mean, within the winners, you have Beckenbauer, Cruyff, Müller, Platini. Um, I mean, legends, Eusebio, um, Bobby Charlton, Stanley Matthews, Di Stefano,
Right, right,
Rummenigge, Matthäus, Van Basten. You're part of this family, you know? And
right.
and, and adding the international players from outside of Europe, then you had Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo. You had, of course, Messi. And I mean, there is a continuity that I think you don't really have with other prizes that have not been there for so long. Then the prize in itself, well, I mean, it's been the same. I mean, it was a golden ball. I mean, we hate this term. We want to call it the Ballon d'Or, and no translation in English, but still, I mean, it's always been a golden ball. No question about it, you know? And if you go to the museum of the FC Barcelona, you see some golden balls. You see Ballon d'Or. If you go to Juventus, you see some. You see,
Hmm.
I think it's Sivori's 1961 Ballon d'Or. It's there, and there's probably one Platini Ballon d'Or there, and
Right.
potentially Roberto Baggio's Ballon d'Or of 1993. If you go to Real Madrid's museum in Santiago Bernabeu, as well. I mean, you see Ballon d'Ors. So uh, it is, and you can't. I mean, you can't get misled when you see that trophy.
Right,
You know.
right. Well, Nicholas, we certainly appreciate the time, the visit today, the insight into the Ballon d'Or, the most prestigious prize in world football, and now Lionel Messi with a record seventh award just handed out this week. Thanks very much.
Thank you.